Hey, and welcome, you guys. Decided not to give you guys any music. I hope that wasn't too awkward. Thank you for clicking on this video, and sorry for keeping you waiting so long. Your girl is back with Yikes True Crime and two true crimes starting early, y'all, and docs. But before we get started, please go ahead and like the video. It's a free way to support the channel. Comment down in the comment section to share your thoughts with me. Share this video. We share your videos because sharing is caring. And please subscribe, subscribe, subscribe. Tell a friend to tell a friend. Um, Keep those notifications on because with life, you just never know. And the Cash App, as well as the Venmo, is there for those who would like to, put a little something in the tip jar because your girl's not monetized. That being said, like I said, we're back for Yikes, True Crime, and Docs. And I decided I'm going to do a little bit of a mix of the old along with the new. So this was a documentary that came out in 2017. It's on Max now if you'd like to watch it. It's called Mommy Dead and Dearest. Now, I've watched this several times. I watched a series, I believe it was a series on Hulu called The Act, and that was based upon this story of Gypsy Rose and her mom, Dee Dee Blanchard, right? Very intrigued by it. It was very well put together, unlike some other things, but that's not the video for this. So from then on, I went on to watch, any documentary I can find on Gypsy. Since this one, we've had one on Lifetime, and then also she got a reality series because we got a docu-series as she was coming up on her parole and getting released. And then after that, we got a reality series on her life since she's been out that I haven't had a chance to watch. That's in its second season. If you watch any of that or you've kept up with any of this, please get that in the comments and share your thoughts with me. So as the series opens, we're going to go through it, but kind of jump around a little bit. This is just giving you what's going on, giving you a little bit of my thoughts, and we move from there. So we're starting at the end, actually, and we're in Springfield, Missouri, with Dee Dee Blanchard being found dead in her home and her 19-year-old Gypsy being missing. Okay, so like I said, this came out in 2017. This is 2015 is the year we're actually starting with. So it turns out that the police had done a wellness check based on an alarming Facebook post that basically said that they had taken the mom out and, things about the daughter. And Gypsy was wheelchair bound. Now, allegedly, she had leukemia, seizures, and needed to be tube fed. So it's kind of alarming when you find out the mom has passed and now this girl who's supposed to be disabled is now missing. So now we're over at the precinct and we're getting, interviewed, interrogated, whichever word you like to use for it. And at first, Gypsy's kind of acting like she didn't know what was going on. But Nicholas Godejohn, who is her boyfriend at the time, admits to, stabbing her mom. And yes, he says Gypsy knew because she asked him to take her out. So at this point, we see it's revealed to the press that although we've seen Gypsy as wheelchair bound, she is able to walk. During the trial, the text messages between Gypsy and Nicholas are revealed as her plans to get rid of her mom, as she plans to get rid of her mom so she could be free. Now, baby, that's a lot. And I kind of hate that they started at the end instead of starting at the very beginning, which is what we got in the act. But that's what happens when you watch things out of order. Now, I think this actually, did this come out before or after the act? The act. Hold on one second, you guys. Okay, so this did indeed come out before the act because the act was 2019. So your girl was a little behind the eight ball. Sometimes that happens with true crime. They'll make a movie about it, and then I'll watch the movie or watch the series, and it'll be based upon, and then you kind of backtrack, which is what I did to this. Now, this is our documentary that's giving us, all the details and what had happened. And the act is pretty close. It's a little dramatization, if you will, but it's pretty close. Now, both Gypsy and Dee Dee, they were two Katrina survivors who came to the Ozarks for a better life. This is what everybody thought, but financial fraud was on our menu, complete with, medical airlifts, Disney travel, and free housing. how did we get here? I think that's what I was alluding to after we got through our first part. We were starting in the end. We have to figure out how we got to the end, how we got to Gypsy taking out her mom, or Gypsy's boyfriend taking out her mom. Okay. So that's where we're building and we're going now. And we're trying to figure out. We have medical fraud is now on the menu. What else comes with the medical fraud? So we speak to a bunch of people like Rod, who's Gypsy's dad, Christy, who's her stepmom, and we also even get to speak to Gypsy herself, along with a bunch of, other professionals, doctors, lawyers, just a bunch of people. So Rod says from 3 months old, Dee Dee said that Gypsy had, numerous health issues, starting with sleep apnea, and it escalated to problems with her eyes, hearing, and digestive problems. Gypsy couldn't walk because she had a muscular disorder. Now, these are all the things that he found out as the dad, but he wasn't really a present part of her life for a large part of it. It sounds like that the mom, isolated him. So Dee Dee told him that she had a chromosome disease and that she never make it to see 18 years old, which no parent wants to hear that. I'm sure he didn't want to hear that, even though he went on to, have another wife and kids and whatnot. So Gypsy's mom wanted to keep her like in that juvenile role, so much so that Gypsy wasn't even aware of her actual age. And the mom told her dad that she was about 5 years behind developmentally. This lady was very good at manipulating people and telling people the story that she wanted them to hear to support the things that she was, in fact, doing in life. So Gypsy describes her mom as overprotective. She's asked to name all of the illnesses that her mom said she had, and baby, that list was quite long. And that was the thing when we get to whether this was right or whether this was wrong, because we're honestly going to start at the end and we're going to end at the end, if that makes any sense. But whether it was right, whether it was wrong, and all of the things that she encountered is a lot of what we had to deal with and visit in this documentary, as well as, the other bodies of work surrounding Gypsy Rose Blanchard. So we've got asthma, epilepsy, hearing impairment, vision impaired, fed with the feeding tube, paralyzed from the waist down, among other things that Gypsy says she could not remember. Baby, could you imagine? Could you imagine being wheelchair bound when you knew you were able to walk? So she says, she was on a number of medications, and Dee Dee had a closet full of them. They show us this in the documentary, and it is quite frightening. The fact that she had even access to get some of these things is horrifying. So she had a breathing machine and a feeding tube. The feeding tube is rather insane, okay? Because you could put anything in there you want. You could do it while she's asleep. I imagine it had to be painful. I don't think they've really gotten to this particular documentary of how she was actually able to acquire the feeding tube for Gypsy, but it's just bizarre. So the medical records reveal that Dee Dee brought Gypsy to local hospitals over 100 times between 2005 and 2014. Red flags galore. Now, this included multiple surgeries, such as gastrointestinal operations, eye procedures, and removal of salivary glands. Baby, if I could remember the other documentary I watched on this outside of Lifetime, I will definitely go back and put it down in the comments. Like I said, you guys can check out The Act. It's pretty darn accurate to the documentary, but like I said, let me know how well versed you are on this case and how you feel about it. So when it came to the medical and the doctor's appointments, Dee Dee did all the talking while she gave Gypsy a stuffed animal or a doll to kind of keep her quiet. And Gypsy said she was just as in the dark as everyone else, and the only thing that she knew was that she couldn't walk. So she was taking what she thought was cancer medication all the while she's having her head shaved, because mom said it was going to fall out anyway. Now, turns out the medications giving induce the symptoms of the diseases that doctors thought they were treating. Like I said, this is a particularly painful one. And this is when we get to what the issue at hand was, which was Munchausen by proxy syndrome. And that's when a caretaker fakes or induces illness in their children. Okay. They do this for a number of reasons. They're looking for care, they're looking for sympathy, but ultimately it is a form of child use. Okay. Can't say it here. Starts with an A, ends with the E. Okay. How was Dee Dee able to convince the doctor she needed procedures is mind boggling. Okay. That's what I have in my notes. I think I said that before, but just as I'm watching this documentary again, I was getting frustrated all over again. And it looks like the family history changed depending on what doctor she was visiting, like the cardiologist. So if she went to the cardiologist, the family had a history of heart problems. But one of the neurologists that she went to kind of peeped what Dee Dee was doing and said that the mom was not a good historian. He spoke to the previous neurologist who verified that Gypsy didn't have muscular dystrophy and that there was a strong possibility of Munchausen by proxy. He said that nobody else in the system was reporting or essentially seeing any issues with it. So he felt like his back was up against the wall and he didn't even want to pursue it or see any point to keep going, which I thought he was actually the doctor that had CPS come to the house, but I could be mistaken. Dee Dee figured out what he said, so she kept her away from that hospital, I believe, for about 8 years because she was requesting copies of the medical records and obviously saw what he had, noted in his findings. So we get a little back history on the relationship between Gypsy's mom and Gypsy's dad. So that's Rod and Dee Dee. They dated for a while, and then it doesn't sound like much at all when Dee Dee got pregnant. He's old school, Southern. They got married. He was 17 now. I believe Dee Dee was a little bit older than him, so it's giving yucky. But by his 18th birthday, he did not know what he was doing there. So he ended the relationship. We get accounts from other family members like her nephew. And even Rod is kind of describing Dee Dee as a little weird, a little eccentric, into witchcraft and just a number of other things. And also speaking to Claude, which was Dee Dee's dad, and her stepmom, Laura. She opened credit cards in the dad's names. She was writing bad checks all over Louisiana. So they're just trying to paint her as a really bad and evil person, deceptive, getting into a bunch of trouble. Allegedly, she also tried to poison the stepmom with Roundup, which is what she put down in the garden. And it turns out that her mom was also a shoplifter too. Now, in the days before, or weeks, whatever it was, before Dee Dee's mom, biological mom, passed, she was starving her. And we're not quite sure if she was responsible for her death or not. Like, they couldn't really prove it. Some say yay, some say nay. We have "this is all alleged" down at the bottom. So when Dee Dee passes, she was cremated and nobody wanted her ashes. Munchausen by proxy. So your girl went to school for psychology, so you look at some DSM-4 things, and Munchausen by proxy was always very fascinating to me and was one of those things that you kind of only saw in movies. Like The Sixth Sense was one, where the mom was making the daughter sick and things of that nature. So it was something you only really saw in movies and you knew it was real. But when we got to here and to the level of which it was, which is why we're examining, or at least I'm challenging you to examine whether you feel like it was right or wrong what she did, because of the things that she was put through with this form of abuse. So in any event, Dee Dee just continued to maintain control over Gypsy. She was always holding her hand so she could give it a little squeeze to redirect or for her not to say anything. But there was also other forms of mushrooms, including coat hangers, get a little pop, little pow with the hand. And so at some point, Gypsy makes her first attempt to get away. She met a friend male friend at a sci-fi fantasy convention. So she talks to this guy. She tells this guy what the deal is. And so he told her, pack your stuff up and come live with me in Arkansas. So one night, Gypsy does that. She hitches a ride, which is maybe totally unsafe. And she gets to his place. And within 4 hours around there, she said her mom found her because they had had mutual friends and conversations. And of course, you're trying to find your disabled daughter. This is what you're telling people. And she threatened to call the police. So Sir didn't want any involvement with it. He let the whole situation go. And back at home, Dee Dee proceeds to smash the computer and the cell phone and threatens Gypsy because she has to maintain this control over her. And she doesn't really want her to. I think the last time she went to school was like second grade. She doesn't really want her to have much connection with the outside world. We're even talking to a former neighbor who recounts how Gypsy didn't really feel comfortable saying certain things around her mom, and her mom was constantly around when they had conversations, just really weird. So following this incident, she is handcuffed and dog leashed to the bed for 2 weeks while she's busy drawing up legal papers, trying to make it seem as though Gypsy is incompetent. She used the word retardation, mental retardation. This was a word that was used, many, many years ago. Now we don't use that word. We speak of, special needs or whatever you want to call it, or we stick to the specific diagnosis. Everyone failed her. Doctors, her dad feels like he failed her, even though, the mom was, we're going to get into that in a little bit, manipulative and really instrumental in keeping him away. The sheriffs came to the house at one point on suspected, but Dee Dee, she was able to talk her way out of it. She had the gift of gab. So this left Gypsy feeling like she had nowhere to go. She meets Nicholas Godejohn on this Christian dating site, and they start dating, and she starts to feel like she's, he's her Prince Charming, because Dee Dee was constantly playing dress up with this girl's all kinds of, going to Disney, treating her like a little girl, dressing up like a princess. So we're into the whole Prince Charming thing. During his interview with the police, we find out that I think it was his mom revealed that he has autism, Asperger's. I don't even think they call Asperger's anymore. But that's what we find out. This is, like I said, 27. The documentary is 2017. So this is all happening like 2016. I think this is actually, that would be 2015. The trial was in 2016. Her trial was in 2016. So as they started dating, she starts to discover more things about him. He's into BDSM. At first, she really wasn't with it. The ex tried to, we've talked about this before in some of my other videos and different topics, how they try to warn you. The ex messaged her telling her that he was a really bad guy, but she just kind of blew it off as jealousy. That's young people's game. Okay. In the 40s, he learned better. But as you're younger, you think they're being jealous and they're, they still want him for some reason. But turns out she was right. So he says that he has multiple personalities. So in turn, Gypsy made up some to match. And all of this is going on online. They're chatting, they're sharing videos, all whilst her mom is asleep. So a year into the relationship, she finally breaks down and she tells him everything that's going on with her mom at home, and that she can walk, and, the medications and, the whole shebang. And he says that he's going to protect her. And this is where we develop and hatch this plan from there. But Gypsy says they kept putting the plan off until one day. So they make a plan to meet at a movie theater where she and her mom were going to be going. She paid for his ticket. They're going to see live action Cinderella. I did again into the fairy tales. We get there. Nicholas says that they had the sexuals in the bathroom, child. But while they sit down to go watch the movie, Dee Dee kind of found it weird and found him creepy for him being there alone. No kids, no girlfriend, no nothing. So this doesn't go the way that it planned. And after everything kind of starts to fall apart, she gets desperate. So we start to really roll this plan into action. He takes a bus that Gypsy paid for. And after her mom goes to sleep, and she even recounts that her and her mom had their ups and downs. She had painted her mom's fingernails. And, the mom was kind of saying she was getting comfortable, like, don't hurt me. So she, Gypsy's crying because now she feels badly about it. So he comes over, she leaves the key under a rock or wherever she left the key, child. And he texts her and instructs her to go into the bathroom. So she goes into that bathroom. She covers her ears. And she says she hears Dee Dee wake up and startled. We hear noises. She's crying out for Gypsy. And then there's silence because basically she's gone. So during the interview, it's brought up that he wanted to, starts with an R, ends with an E. You can't say it on here. Her mom. But Gypsy made a deal for for it to be her instead. But he says after it happened that they had sex, but she says that it wasn't consensual. We see some kind of video footage, and I don't want to speculate. She said when she got to say, so you don't ever want to question that. If she says at that point it wasn't consensual, then it wasn't consensual. But, she also learned from the best. So they pack up, they wipe them fingerprints down, they take a taxi to the hotel. I've just watched so many true crime things like, yes, y'all packed and y'all wiped fingerprints, but you took a taxi and then you stayed at a hotel. And did you use cash? I guess y'all use cash because y'all didn't have a card. I'm just thinking of all the loose ends. And even when you think you tied up the loose ends, you learn from, true crime, you always gonna miss something. They go ahead and take a bus to Wisconsin. Nicholas's mom is, asking her how she's doing, how her mom's doing, because her thought, or what he told her, was that she lived in a homeless shelter and her mom had kicked her out. These two decide to mail the unaliving utensil to his mom's house. Like, nobody even knew it was there till the cops came and got them. They had stolen, or she had stolen money from her mom for them to, make the move and start their life and do all the things. They were going to be happily ever after, That's what she thought. And it turns out that those alarming posts, I won't even say what they said on Facebook, that Gypsy is the one that was responsible for those. And so one of the, therapists is kind of asking her, doctors, like, is she a sociopath? Perhaps. And it could be from, the way she was treated, but anything's possible with the little, So they asked Nicholas that, like, if Gypsy didn't ask you to take her mom out, would you have done it? And he says no. And I believe it was like another documentary or something where they were just kind of painting him out to be so bad that even if he hadn't done it then, and it would have been somebody else. So I don't really know. We're just going to stick strictly to this documentary and what they showed us here. So we see her saying it because we got an officer in the room. He's asking her, did you do it? No. Did you help him? No. Did you have any knowledge he was going to do it? No. She just, she crying and she lying. She lying and she crying. And she maintained her innocence all the way up until they got to the courtroom. Even the stepmom was talking about it. And when they got to that courtroom and them text messages was put up there, like, it really couldn't be denied. So the interviewer is asking her, like, are you happy that she isn't here to take advantage or, abuse you anymore? And Gypsy says yes, but she's not happy that she's gone. Like, that's not what she wanted. And the day it happened, she was very medicated and she doesn't want to make that an excuse, but she didn't really have any emotion around it. So that's when we get into, again, Munchausen victims have trouble distinguishing reality and things of that nature. So now she's trying to kind of getting to the place where she says she feels bad and she feels sorry for it. And she, she wishes she had reached out to her dad to come and get her. And now she knows she can trust him. And he kind of recounts one of the days that he came to visit where she seemed kind of scared. So he wasn't sure what Dee Dee might have told her. Also, when he started to have questions about Gypsy's condition, the further and further they moved away. And I guess, it sounds like he was calling and checking on birthdays. I don't think he went for years on end without contact, but that's why I think he feels guilt about it at the time of this, that he didn't do more. So he says that they're going to work on their relationship now. So we get to their pretrial where she pleads guilty to second-degree unaliving. She's sentenced to 10 years and she must do 85% of her sentence to be eligible for parole. Like I said, I believe this is 2016 at this point. And this takes into account the mitigating circumstances. Like, she definitely was involved, but being that it was a Munchausen by proxy situation and, not that she wasn't in her right mind, but she wasn't in her right mind. So they're asking her, is 10 years in jail better than living how you were living? And she says yes, because she'll get a chance to start all over. So we see her sit with her dad and her stepmom, and, her health is improving. The scar from her feeding tube is like healing up and everything. He apologizes for not being there, but she says that she doesn't blame them. And I hate that she did not feel comfortable enough to, either way she was reaching out to these men, to reach out to her own father. If you can sneak and get phones, you could have reached out to your dad. And all you need is for him to believe you and to keep trying and keep trying and keep trying. And maybe he might have been able to make a dent, but I, fully understand manipulation and all the things that weren't happening, all the things that were happening. And now she's crying as they got to go and she has to go serve her time. Also, what happens in a lot of situations like this is instead of it being the parent, it's the child who is the victim and who doesn't make it. So her stating earlier that she wasn't going to make it to 18 was fully her plan to get the sympathy, to get everything, all eyes on her, to get I think they got a house from Habitat for Humanity. We're taking Disney trips. We're having donations and things of that nature. So she may have ended up harming her. So I will ask you guys, Nicholas got his trial was in 2017. Before this actually, well, it was released in 2017, but they had probably wrapped up and done everything. So he got life in prison. I don't want to mix documentaries, but she did end up getting out in 2024, which they reveal at the end of the documentary. That's when she was going to be up for parole. She's up for parole. She's out. She's, by all accounts, living her best life, married, remarried, baby, something to that effect. I haven't got the details. But you guys get down in the comments and let me know, do you feel what she did was justified? Because it was a situation of, had she allowed it to continue, she may have been the one with no life. Or do you feel like, which is kind of along the lines I feel, unless she was, and it's hard to say this, because she was actively trying to get rid of her, but you know what I mean, with a weapon of sorts, and she was defending herself. I guess I could have seen it a lot more, because a lot of times you have women that find themselves in the situation. Typically, it's not with their parents. Usually, it's with their lover, and they're being harmed, and they take them out, and they go to jail for it. So this is how the cookie crumble. Is it fair? No, but you can't just go around taking out other people. But there's certain situations and circumstances. I don't know if this one was. It's it's gray. It's not black. It's not white. It's a murky area. And that's my feelings on it. Like I said, if you guys have watched The Act, you watched the Lifetime documentary series or her reality series or anything pertaining to Gypsy Rose Blanchard, get down in the comments and let me know your thoughts. I really enjoy watching, true crime and documentaries. It's my thing. It's my jam. So March is almost over. I'll be back in April to give you another one. Like I said, we'll be mixing old with the new. So we'll get some more older ones that I had been interested in doing for you guys. And some of them not too old, because 2017 is not quite that old. But some older ones, some newer ones. I just watched Con Mom. That was pretty good. It was only about an hour and change. So that's up for consideration. You guys let me know if you want me to briefly talk about that. That would be far shorter than this, because it's, a lot less going on in that story, just shorter time frame. We're talking like decades here in this one. Almost 2 decades, I believe. So yeah, I like to come and give this stuff to you guys. Before you leave, make sure that you, or before the video ends, make sure that you have liked the video, given your commentary down in the comment section, shared the video, and subscribe if you have not already. I'm going to head on out of here. I appreciate you guys ever so kindly, and I hope to see you guys in the next video. Peace.